Mills fashions a kick back towards the wing for Lady! Left now, lines them up. It's coming back. Hawks is the biggest man there.
G'day guys, welcome to Red Time. Jared Barker, Mason Coxy, and we said it last week, but we will say it again because now it really is finals time. 4 huge games to come this weekend, beginning with a huge clash on Thursday night with your Magpies and Adelaide over at the Adelaide Oval, which we will get into. And if you are listening to this and you're not watching, we are recording this one remotely because we both have, busy schedules and are both out and about this week. So fingers crossed for no technical issues, and hopefully the internet holds up, which I'm sure it will. Coxy, how was your weekend without footy?
It's a bit odd. It's a bit weird to not be playing footy this weekend. You kind of get used to it, and I don't know. I feel for the last 20 plus weeks we've kind of been busy on weekends, so it was nice to have a little bit of free time. But we do have a short week, obviously, with a Thursday night game. So training on a Sunday, which was a bit different. But we're just kind of preparing now, and looking forward to Thursday and hopefully getting a win.
Yeah, massive game on Thursday, as I said. So you have had a few training sessions since we spoke last week about the pre-finals bye and the structure of it all. And I guess from your end, how is it all going? Is the squad looking healthy? Everyone ready to go?
Yeah, it's we've mentioned this before. I really love the pre-finals bye. Like, I feel like it's a time to really recharge before the chaos and the intensity kind of ramps up. Finals footy is very different from in-season footy. And I think this opportunity over this weekend to, maybe some ailments that some players are holding or something like that, you can get some, time to be able to try to heal those or kind of look at recovering those a little bit more. So it's, you're getting the best product whenever it comes to finals time. And that all kicks off on Thursday night.
How prepared are you as a team, do you reckon? Like, does it feel like you're as prepared as you were in 2023, the last time you were in finals?
I don't know. I think there's always a different kind of, not necessarily motive, but like there's a different kind of, I don't know what you would call it, but every time you go to finals, you have some kind of theme, right? And there's a theme that you go into, and that changes year by year. And we kind of had a meeting the other day at the MCG where, we had a bit of a dinner there and got to go walk around. It was awesome. And absolutely loved that, which was great. And it kind of makes you kind of just realize and reset for the, time frame that comes ahead of you, and just kind of really try to get together as a group, get on the same page, and really hone in on that theme that you're going to have for the finals campaign. So for us, it's different in certain ways, but obviously I think, the experience that we have on our team and the people that have been through these situations before, we'll definitely lean on those throughout our time.
Yeah, I think the difference for you guys looking from outside in is it's first in 2023 and it's fourth in 2025, but it's the same qualifying final, and you finish in the top 4, you finish in the top 4 regardless. But look, back in Adelaide after a few weeks, after the Rankine stuff all unfolded, has that been spoken about at all at the club as part of the lead up, or is it purely just game focus for you guys?
Not too much. Like, we're just pretty much, focusing on obviously the opposition that is Adelaide and who's going to play on the day. So for us, it's it's just business as usual. You look at it, you go, okay, let's kind of have a similar lead into a game with the different kind of stuff as far as looking at the opposition team and what days you kind of look at certain matchups and things like that, and how you're going to play against them. We've kind of now moved into our week of preparation. That's pretty normal for what's been the whole year, really. So now it's somewhat of a normal feeling for us going into this game, in a sense of just the week that's kind of scheduled out. But obviously you understand that there's going to be a massive crowd there at Adelaide Oval, and the pressure will be on, and the intensity just kind of gets ramped up.
Yeah, you say it's a normal week. I saw you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, change the line markings at the AIA Centre last week at a training session to suit the Adelaide Oval measurements. Does that actually make a notable difference? I've always wondered, like, when you adjust the boundary lines to suit, does it make a difference or not?
Like, were you down in training over the week?
I can't confirm or deny.
Adelaide Oval is a very different sized oval. I always find that weird in AFL that you can have one sport with very different dimensions for the field. But I digress. Adelaide Oval, very skinny ground that's a bit different than the MCG. Our normal ground over at the training center is kind of the dimensions of the MCG. So we kind of spray painted on, I guess, the the different dimensions of Adelaide Oval just to try to be able to train on to understand the different angles and stuff like that whenever you're kicking for goal and, whenever you're kicking down line, that there might not be as much, room on the wing and stuff like that. So I think we've done that multiple times throughout my, career that we've, painted on a different style oval to the one that we're leading into. So that's not an abnormality or abnormally. That's not abnormal.
Abnormality.
Abnormality. That's what I'm looking for.
That's the one.
Got well this morning. But just, I think with Adelaide Oval being such a different ground as far as its dimensions, we, want to try to train as much as we can and make it similar to the conditions that we're going to get over the weekend.
All right, let's not bury the lead here because you're the one who brought this up. But would you prefer the AFL actually does use the same sized grounds everywhere, like we see in other sports?
I think it just makes sense. Call me crazy. I don't know any other sport in the world that's like, hey, we're just going to go to a different city. By the way, things are going to be totally different. It's unique to AFL, and I do love things that make AFL just kind of crazy and quirky. But I think also there's this other side of it where if you were to try to put the MCG dimensions onto Adelaide Oval, I don't know physically that stadium is set up to be able to do that. And maybe we've gone too far. We've already kind of created the concrete structures and everything that we won't be able to actually expand on. So you're kind of stuck with what you got. And unless everyone essentially decides to go to what is probably the skinniest oval, which is Adelaide Oval. So I don't know. I find it very odd, very unique. Does it give an advantage for some people, some teams, who knows? But it is something that you look at and understand that every time you go to a different opposition's ground, there's going to be a little subtle differences that you have to kind of cater to.
It does make sense to me to have it all the same. But as you said, you use the word quirky. I think quirky is the right word to use because you can play at the MCG, which is a genuine oval, or you can play at GMHBA Stadium, which is a genuine rectangle. So it's all very different, but I think we love that variety in this sport. Mate, we're going to look forward to that game again a little later, along with every other game as well. But let's get to start, bench, drop. Let's play the role of selector for these following statements. First one I've got for you. Non-Victorian teams making up most of this year's final spots is good for the game.
Oh, man. I think it's great for fans and obviously the expansion of the AFL. Obviously you'll look at Gold Coast being the one team that's their first finals campaign, and we'll kind of see the impact that it has on memberships and things like that next year, which would be a great sign to see how much impact, playing finals really does for memberships. I think the AFL, if they're looking at it financially, probably not great. I would say not great, but I would say not as good as, selling out an MCG with 100,000 people. I think that's financially the best option for them. But I think for the expansion of the league, it's a great opportunity for them to be able to kind of see, these expansion teams, GWS, Gold Coast, both those are in the finals now. Let's kind of see the bang for buck as far as, being able to try to get members in and follow those teams whenever they are successful. And that's going to be a real telltale sign once the year finishes. And it really kind of might depend on where they end up, at the season's end, whether they win the first game or they get knocked out in the first round. It really kind of is up in the air. So I think it's good, but financially the AFL probably would prefer the MCG with 100,000 people. What about you?
Call me a fence sitter, but I have benched this one. I don't really care either way, to be honest with you. Though. Like, if anything, who it's good for? It's good for Victorian fans who barrack the teams who aren't in the finals, because suddenly they can just band together and get behind all the interstate sides. But the AFL is a national competition, right? So it's natural that there's going to be some years where you get a strong Victorian presence in the finals, but there's other years like this year where you're not going to have that. And honestly, I just don't really care, to be honest with you. And that's why I fenced it.
Well, we've learned that over the year or over the months we've been doing this. You love to fence it. I appreciate it. Well, we'll move on to the next one. The Giants or Dockers losing home finals would make their seasons a failed home finals.
Okay, I'm not going to bench this one. I'm going to drop this one. I'm going to say no because it's just been such a close season. We were saying not long ago that is it a fail if Freo don't make the finals with 15 wins, and I said it wouldn't be a fail. So finishing sixth and earning a home final on top of that definitely can't be in my eyes. The 8 is so tight that anyone genuinely can win it. If the Dockers lose to the Suns, it wouldn't be fair to call their season a failure. I wouldn't be shocked if that actually happens and they do lose, but it's not a fail to me. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think you look at the Giants halfway through the season, you're probably questioning whether they would actually make finals. The Dockers, probably one of the most hyped teams, I feel like, going into the year. So them making finals, getting a home final, I think that's kind of a tick. Everyone will say, and judge you based on your last game, right? They'll judge you based on how you finish the season. And I think anyone that's making finals, you have to say, that's at least a tick from that perspective of going, hey, we're at least giving ourselves a chance at this thing. And I think that's kind of one of those things we, as fans, get a little bit harsh whenever it comes to our who we support and what we want out of our teams. But if you look at 2 home finals, and if you're looking at the beginning of the year, you'd be pretty satisfied with that, not knowing what's going to pan out as far as injuries and everything else. So I think I don't think it would be a fail. So I'm going to bench this one, I'm going to drop this one. And I think we're going to go into who's going to win this game a little bit later, but it's going to be an interesting one, that Giants versus Hawthorn game.
There will be indeed. Next one for you. The Cats are more advantaged at the MCG this week than they would be at GMHBA Stadium.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like you talk to Cats fans, they absolutely hate it that they're not playing at GMHBA.
Have you played at GMHBA?
I have played a preseason game there once. I think it was in my very first year, and I haven't been back since. We played. No, I have been back since, but for other reasons. But I think the Cats, I don't know. I think they're a dominant home team. They would like to play in front of their fans. That's, a sellout GMHBA stadium. You wouldn't be getting many Brisbane fans going over there. So I think, obviously, the MCG, you're fitting more of their fans in one place. But I think if they played the GMHBA, they'd probably prefer that than the MCG, if I'm being honest with you. There's Brisbane fans that will be able to afford tickets, to be able to go down there. Whereas if you're doing it GMHBA, it's going to be a tough sell. So I'm going to go with, I'll start pitch or drop this one. I'll say I'm going to drop this one. I reckon they'd rather play GMHBA. What about you?
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I benched it. No surprise to anyone. I think they're more comfortable at GMHBA, no doubt. They play there all the time, but there's nothing wrong with playing at the G, and that's where the grand final is, and they do play some games there. So that's probably where you want to be comfortable. But I think Brisbane came down here. I reckon it was the whiteout game. I think that was the night they beat Geelong pretty easily down at GMHBA. So I don't know. Maybe Brisbane would prefer to play down there. Maybe it's a ground size and that suits the way that the Lions play and set up too. So who knows? But I've benched that one.
Yeah, the whiteout game. I was furious. They got absolutely smacked in that game. I was hoping that the Cats would get up on that one.
You can't lose during that occasion, can you?
I know. The hype and everything else maybe got to them. We'll go to the next one. The AFL should be concerned about the clear division between the top 9 and the bottom 9 teams this year.
That's a drop. That's an utter drop. These things change every single year. Every single year. This season, the top 9 were so much better than the bottom 9. You can probably say top 10. I think you can put Sydney in that category because they were pretty good. But one preseason of trade and draft and free agency and game plan tweaks and all that can completely flip things. You look at Adelaide. They just went from the bottom 4 last year to minor premiers this year. So the idea that no one will rise next year to me is nonsense. It will. There will definitely be turnover in next year's top 8. So I'm going to drop that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to drop it too. I think you can't base it off 1 year. If this was a consistent theme over a 5-year span or something like that, yes, that's an issue.
Yeah.
But I think like this year with this being the case, I mean, we looked at, 14 or 15 wins usually gets you into finals, and we're having to win 16 to get there. I think that's a sign that, it's exciting football, that there's, a top teams that are going to be, at each other, and it's a competitive kind of, top of the ladder. But I can't say that you can make this judgment based off of 1 year. Like you said, one draft can totally change, where you fall on the ladder. So I'm going to have to go with a drop on this one.
Yep, fair enough. A premiership from outside the top 4 this season would be more impressive than Brisbane in 2024 and the Bulldogs in 2016.
Yeah, it's possible. It's very possible.
Very.
I'm going to bench this one. I'm going to do a JB and bench this one. I think you look at the top 8, right? You look at the finals campaign, and not one of those teams you sit there and go, yeah, no chance they're going to win, right? Like, I feel like every single one of those teams on any given day could beat another team. So it's going to be an exciting final series. It's going to be impressive no matter who wins it. But I feel like we have this conversation every year because finals does bring a whole different beast. And being able to perform under pressure and under the big lights is totally different than the regular season. So there's no telling how teams are going to fall and be able to rise over this kind of next month period. But it's going to be impressive no matter what. And I think every single game is going to be such a close game, and it's going to make a great final series for a spectator.
Yeah, my technical answer here is bench, but I'm going to say drop just to change it up a bit.
There you go.
I'm going to say no. As you just said, right, I'm just regurgitating what you've just said, but this is so even across the board that it wouldn't have the same feel, right? So the Dogs broke a 60-plus year drought in 2016. The Lions had to pull off an insane semi-final comeback last year. So those were they're different stories. So if it happens this year, it'll be a great run and it should be applauded, but not necessarily more impressive than those two. But maybe it just depends on what actually happens first. So technically a bench, but I might just say drop.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for finally making this.
I'm branching out. I'm branching out here.
We're changing for the better. We'll go to the next one. Trade speculation during finals creates more excitement than it kills.
You probably won't like hearing this one. I don't know. Just from what I've gathered from some of your answers the last few weeks, but I'm going to start that. I think it does increase the excitement levels, absolutely. Because you've got 10 clubs that aren't playing finals. So they're all thinking, how do we improve? And naturally, names will start leaking out in the media. I mean, reportedly, you've got names like Charlie Curnow and Jordan Ridley and others being thrown around recently. That just creates talking points. And they are significant names to those two clubs. So I don't know, as long as finals remains the focus, which it will be and is regardless, I think a bit of trade chat only adds to the overall buzz.
Yeah, I'm going to bench this. I think it's good for people whose teams have been dropped, right? Teams didn't make finals. It's like something to keep them interested, something to keep them around, someone to, I guess, keep up with their team while their team's essentially finished up and they're over in Bali or wherever the hell it is. So I think for teams that have dropped out of it, yes, it's interesting and it keeps them, involved in AFL. But the teams that are in the 8, it is just, it's distraction that you don't need during a really competitive time of trying to win games. So I think it's great for teams that are out, terrible for teams that are in. It can cause a bit of a rift, and who knows kind of what, as far as frustration from the clubs. You don't want that to be something that's, being focused on by the media. You want to be focused on the game ahead of you and trying to win as many of those as you can. So I'm going to go with the bench, depending on the situation, your team, whether in finals or not.
You fence sitter, you. I knew you'd say that. Last one for you. Double headers with the AFLW. Start, bench, drop.
I'm going to start this one. I think it would be great. We've done doubleheaders of the VFL into the AFL, and it does bring a lot more kind of audience to those games. And I think that's what AFL kind of W wants to do, is bring as many eyes and ears to the game, which would be great. So I'm going to start that. But I will say this, and I saw this over the weekend. North Melbourne 114 to Freo 14.
Yeah.
We talk about evenness of the competition. That stat right there is something that is mind-boggling to me whenever I saw it. And if you want to bring more eyes and ears to the game, you're going to have to do a bit better on the equalization of the league. So I think I'm a big fan of the double headers. I think that's I'm going to start this one. And the only issue I think that's going to be is when they do it. Obviously, it's a shorter season, so whether it's on the back end or the front end, whether they want more eyes and ears during the finals campaign, doing it during that time for the men. I'm not really too sure how the AFL would kind of structure it, but I think it's a great way to bring eyes and ears in there. And then I think that the biggest issue, and one of the things that I think most families would struggle with, is being there for such a long time with families. I think if you have kids, sons, daughters, whatever it may be, to sit there for 6 hours on a weekend, you're going to need something to keep them going, right? So I think that's probably the biggest issue whenever it comes to a doubleheader or curtain raiser and stuff like that, is that people go there for with the families. It's really tough to keep, kids' attention, especially the really young ones, and not have any kind of issues to stay for that long period of time in a chair at the MCG or wherever it may be. So I'm going to start doing the double headers, but with a bit of a cautionary tale with families, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that does. Yeah, you said that pretty well. I'd welcome it in parts, but I actually enjoy seeing the AFLW games at the local grounds, like the smaller, more intimate atmosphere. Just feels a bit more unique. So the balance is making sure that players get the professional, high quality facilities while still keeping that community vibe that makes the AFLW what it is. So there's pros and cons, but I actually like giving the AFLW its own air, to be honest. So I might bench that one. What do you reckon?
That's right.
Yeah, bit of a shock.
Even I would love to see it maybe a doubleheader with like a rivalry round, right? So then you have like the rivalry of AFLW, like Carlton Collingwood, of an AFLW game going into our AFL game of Carlton versus Collingwood. I think that would bring a ton of eyes and ears, and then also like the MCG is going to be almost a sellout no matter what with us. So you might as well, that's I guess like efficiency wise, that's the best way to kind of bring as many people there to a game.
Yep. Lean into the audience that you're going to get. Yep.
Exactly.
Let's preview some games, mate. It's time for the hot stat checklist powered by StatMate. Download the app for free now. So obviously the first one is Thursday night, Adelaide and Collingwood. There are some key stats to look at for this one. So we're going to start with Rory Laird. He has a very good record against the Pies. So he's racked up at least 25 disposals in 4 of his last 5 games against them. Another Crow, James Peatling, he's kicked 1 or more goals in 4 of his last 5 matches this season. And ditto Lockie Schultz, who's hit the scoreboard in 4 of his last 5 games this season at the Pies as well. What are your thoughts on all those?
Yeah, there's some players that are playing really well and definitely in form at the moment. Rory Laird is always, I feel like, such a understated kind of person. I think he flies a little bit under the radar with how much. He does
move to the half-back flank this year, so he played a lot of midfield the last couple of seasons, but on the half-back flank, he's played a pretty important role for him.
He has, and he racks up disposals every time they play, I feel like. And Peatland's definitely been, killing it. And then our boy Lockie Schultz, who has been a massive, pickup for us over the past few years. He's a guy who just, hits the contest hard and, gives it his absolute all. So, those 3 players are absolutely in form. And, it'll be interesting to kind of see how they go over in the first finals game.
Well, if you want me to predict them, I'm going to say that Lockie will hit the scoreboard. I think that James Peatling will absolutely hit the scoreboard as well. Rory Laird, I might say he doesn't get the 25 touches. I don't know. I just got a feeling. Yeah. I mean, no Rankine. Maybe does he get more midfield minutes? Maybe it's Peatling who gets more midfield minutes. Who knows? But I'll say no to Laird and yes to the other 2. Geelong and Brisbane. So Ollie Dempsey, he loves the G. He's kicked 1 or more goals in all of his last 10 games at the venue. Josh Dunkley voted the most courageous player last week, which is great recognition of the play that he has been for a while now. He's had 25 disposals in all of his last 5 games against Geelong. And Bailey Smith has racked up 30-plus disposals in his last 5 games for the Cats. I think he's averaging nearly 32 touches a game this year, Bailey Smith. So that one probably not out of the realms of possibility.
It is nuts to think Bailey Smith at the Bulldogs and where he's at now. Just the total difference of Geelong and the atmosphere of, I don't know what they did over in Geelong to, help him out, but it's a credit to him because he is absolutely killing it now. And I feel like he's really got that support he feels and he feels as though he needs. And, I think his football is really speaking for it at the moment.
Yeah, I think at the Dogs as well, you had Marcus Bontempelli, Tom Liberatore, Jack McRae was there at the time as well. They had a lot of midfielders. They still do. So he was sort of pushed out a bit to the flanks, which probably didn't help him. So, moving to a club where he's now their number 1 midfielder, he's the guy in the engine room. I think that's really helped him. And he's really shown that this year. So Bailey Smith, 30-plus against the Lions. I'm going to say yes, he can do that. Josh Dunkley, I'm going to say no to the 25, only because if there is someone to do a defensive role, and it might be on a Bailey Smith, potentially Max Holmes as well, Dunkley's usually pretty reliable at shutting down opponents. So I just don't know how Chris Fagan's going to use him. If it is a run with roll, 25 might be too steep. And Ollie Dempsey, he's been incredible this year. So 1+ goals, I'm going to have to say yes as well. I can see that one being pretty high scoring too. Pretty attractive teams to watch. Let's move to GWS and Hawthorn. So Toby Bedford has kicked a goal in his last 5 games for the Giants. Jarman Impey at the Hawks. He's one of the more underrated players in the comp, I think. He's had 20-plus disposals in his last 5 matches this season. And the last one on this game, Aaron Cadman has kicked 2 or more goals in 8 of his last 10 games. He's been a real breakout this year, has Cadman at the Giants, and has really lifted in Jesse Hogan's absence.
Yeah, they obviously have a few players to come back, so it's going to be interesting to see how that affects that. But this is my game. Obviously, like, I'm very interested in our own game, but this is the game outside of that I'm looking at. Like GWS versus Hawthorn. This is, I don't know what to pick. Honestly, don't. I feel like either team could just come out there and just dominate each other, and then the other one can fold. Or it's an absolute crapshoot. So I have no idea, but I do know one thing: it's going to be hella exciting. I was like, I'm going to enjoy. I feel like there's going to be a lot of trash talk between these two teams. It's going to be a lot of just a few egos rolling around, just trying to one up each other, and it's going to be fun to watch. There's no doubt about that.
For no other reason other than we don't yet know. We don't have the team news yet. They haven't dropped, but if the Giants do bring back a Jesse Hogan and a Jake Stringer and a Josh Kelly into the midfield, what does that do to Toby Bedford and to Aaron Cadman and their impact that they can have? So good enough players to hit the scoreboard, absolutely. Would it shock me for them to both be multiple goal kickers this week? Probably not, but given all the players that Adam Kingsley can likely bring back this week, Brent Daniels is another one as well on the half-forward line. I'll probably say that they won't reach those lines that we just gave. But Jarman Impey, I'm going to say he does go over 20-plus disposals. Really underrated, as I said, and the Hawks love using that pace off the half-back line, him and Carl Amon, etc. So I think he can have a big game up there in New South Wales. So final game of the week will be Fremantle and Gold Coast. Patrick Voss. He's kicked 3 or more goals in 4 of his last 5 games for the Dockers. Ben Long has slotted 2 goals in 4 of his last 5 games for the Suns. And Matt Rowell, he's had 25 disposals for the Suns in 4 of his last 5 games. An absolute ball who I think is built for finals footy.
Yeah, I'm stoked to see Suns in finals footy. I don't know why. I feel like the Gold Coast Suns, because it's the first finals campaign, they are just the underdog that everyone is going for. And as I would say in America, we're rooting for them. But
we sound here as well. Hey,
yeah, okay. I wasn't too sure if it was appropriate or not, but we can get lost in translation. That's totally fine. Yeah, but it's going to be a great game over there. Patrick Voss, he's been absolutely killing it, and Ben Long, Matt Rowell. I'm really looking forward to Rowley. I think obviously he's been there for a while now. He is their kind of person they go to try to make a massive impact. Between him and Duke Miller, it's going to be an interesting battle in the midfield, and I don't know, man. It's one of those things that finals football is very different from regular season. I've said this many a times. I think experience is a big thing, and I'm interested to kind of see exactly how they go without as much experience as some of these other teams. Not to say Fremantle's had a ton over the years, but it's going to be a nice little shootout, I think, in that midfield.
There's going to be so much eyeballs on that game. It's really interesting. I actually don't know what's going to happen with any of these games, but the Suns one, so much interest for obvious reasons. Pat Voss, well, I think the Suns have I don't want to call them undermanned in the back line. Ever since Charlie Ballard went down earlier in the year, I said they would be, because they've got Sam Collins and Mac Andrew holding the fort, and then Bodie Ulan sort of has to play a little bit taller than he really is. So can a Freo forward, like they play 4 talls, can one of them get off the chain and kick 3+? Yeah, I just don't know if it's going to be Patrick Voss. It could be a Luke Jackson. It could be a Jai Amos, a Josh Tracy. But Matt Rowell, I think he could be a given to get that 25 disposal mark for sure for the Suns. That was the hot stat checklist powered by StatMate. Download the app for free now. I was going to say we should do some tips for those games as well. Yeah. So let's quickly do that. Crows and Pies. I know you're going to say Collingwood regardless, but give me an official tip.
Collingwood. Got to pick your own team.
Sure. It's going to be a hostile environment over there. Because you're here, I'll say Collingwood. How about that?
Yeah. Well, hey, this is
I'll say.
This is a remote record, so this is one time to pick against us if you're going to do it.
All right, Adelaide by 6 points.
Wow.
This is going to be close regardless. We know that they play close games. These two clubs only know thrillers. They only know thrillers, so we can expect it to be pretty tight. But the Pies statistically should have won only a few weeks ago. So I think they can win as the underdog. Geelong and Brisbane, who you got?
I'm going to go Brisbane on this one. They smacked Geelong over GMHBA, and that's just sticking in my mind. I think they've probably found some way of exposing Geelong, and obviously they're going to look to try to counteract that. But this one, I don't know why. I've just got this feeling that Brisbane, obviously winning the grand final last year and the experience they have, not to say Geelong's not experienced, because I feel like they've probably got the most games played in finals of anyone. But I just feel as though Brisbane's going to, be able to maybe manipulate them and move them around to the point that they can get this win.
Yeah, I think Brisbane is the better team, to be honest. But both of these sides are quite well-rounded. They're strong in each line. So Brisbane, the better team, but I actually might tip the Cats, to be honest. I just think they've been primed for this from a long way out with a very cruisy fixture, which I've spoken about all season. I think it matters. Well-rested. They've set themselves, and I think they can pounce. So I'll say Cats by 9 points. Giants and Hawks.
At GWS, I feel like I've gone against them the whole year, so I might as well continue on. Hawthorn, I'll go to win against GWS. I think to me, it just depends on these players that are coming back and whether or not they're healthy enough to make a difference, or if they're kind of hobbling into finals and just trying to, get over the line. I think that's the biggest kind of telltale sign as to who's going to win this game. So not to put a lot of pressure on those players of whether or not they need to come back, but I think that is something, if they can be playing, at some of their best and have their best team out there, it's going to set them up to be able to win this game. But if they can't do that, or if they're not kind of firing the same way they were, then I'd rather choose Hawthorn.
Another 50-50, as all finals are. But I think the Giants at home, I'll pick them. But another one where nothing will shock me. I can see the Hawks going pretty far if they do win this, and I'm tipping the Giants. So that tells you how confused I am by making some bloody tips, Mason. But the slight risk if the Giants bring back all they're expected to, what is it, 5 players after injury layoffs? It's a risk that Kingsley has to take, I think, in an elimination final. But I'll still stick with GWS because I'm weak, and I'll just pick the home team because it's easy. So Giants by 5 points. How about that? Freo and Gold Coast.
I've got to pick Fremantle at home.
We all want the same thing to happen.
We all want the Gold Coast Suns to win. That's what we know that. We want the Gold Coast Suns to win. But yeah, Freo's they're a formidable team. I think they've kind of, they've come out with a lot of hype, and then that hype kind of tapered off. But then they've been on an absolute steam train since probably 12 weeks ago. So I think they've got probably a bit more form at the moment. Being the home team also definitely helps, and they've got a little bit more experience. So I'm going to have to go Gold Coast to lose this against Fremantle.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same. I'll go Freo by 12 points, but fingers crossed the Suns can do something very funny. Let's wrap this one up, mate. Don't be surprised if David Swallow is the hard luck story of this final series. He has the all-time VFL, AFL record of most games played without featuring in a final. That's 247 games that he's played. Only players still at the club from their inaugural season, so an absolute stalwart there. And if anyone deserves to play finals footy, it is David Swallow. I'm just not sure he's going to. He just hasn't been in the team lately, so it looks like it might not happen. He's played 7 games this season. 4 of those he started as a sub. His last game in the AFL was 6 weeks ago. It's stiff. It's so stiff. But I don't know if rewarding his longevity as a token game is a priority when you're playing in your first ever final as a club, right? So I don't see it happening, but I'd love to see him just get named sub so he can actually feature in a final and put an end to that bloody record.
Yeah, it's so tough, and he's probably, no pun intended, just probably have to swallow his pride. But it's like, you want to see those kind of great stories of someone who's stuck stuck with a team since the beginning, and featuring in the final. 247 games without featuring in finals, crazy. It's rough, and it's tough to see that, but I would assume he's going to be heavily involved. I'd love to, if he's not playing, see him on the bench in some capacity. It feels though he's really kind of part of this finals campaign because he absolutely deserves it. And I'm hoping that the team really gets around, and no matter what the situation is and no matter what happens, because that is something and a commitment that has to be, applauded from everyone in the IFL to stick with the team for that long and really be part of that up and down and never. There's so many players that have left Gold Coast over the years, and he's kind of been that person that's been that rock for so long. So you got to give credit where credit's due, and hopefully he has some sense of pride no matter what happens in this finals campaign for him personally.
Yeah, I don't know if Dimmer's the type of coach who would make a sentimental selection, but if there's a week to do it, this is the week.
Yeah, I don't think he is either, which is got to be tough for David. But we'll move on to the next one. Don't be surprised. Q Clash semi-final. Brisbane to lose, Gold Coast to win. I don't think it's
Freo, and now you're saying it's going to be a Q. Yeah, exactly.
It would be a wild to see Brisbane versus Gold Coast. And we talked about interstate teams and a bit of hype and everything else. I think this would be one of the biggest hypes that you could possibly think of. And obviously, it's always a bit of a close game between those two. And with both of them being so good this year, it'd be an incredible spectacle and great for the league. So I'm kind of hoping for it. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But if there's any kind of situation where it does, I'd be pretty stoked to watch it.
There'd be a pretty good chance, though. Like, if Gold Coast actually beat Freo, it's not the biggest shock in the world. They're a good team. They made finals anyway. They probably should have made the top 4 in the end. And then if Geelong beats Brisbane, it's like, well, sure, Geelong are a top 2 team. So it can happen, a Q Clash in the semi-final. I don't think it's going to happen based on who I'm tipping, but God, it'd be good. And that's something the AFL would love, I think.
100%. It'd be a great spectacle and, great for expansion out of the league.
Yeah, mate, we cannot wait for all 4 of those games. We are going to leave it there. Thanks for your time and all the best to you and the team for this week. So good luck to you and thanks to everyone for listening or watching. We'll be back to talk all things semi-finals, hopefully a Q Clash next week.